So this episode actually was pretty good for a number of reasons. This is the episode for Kirk Franklin's Den of Kings, and it was NLE Chopper who is here. Um, Ray J, the doctor, I don't remember his name, and Jonathan Majors and Kev on stage. So the whole time I'm watching from the beginning when they all enter one by one. I watch how they receive like the whole food setup, how they all like introduce themselves to each other, and I was picking up on little stuff here and there. But while I was watching this, because I noticed a lot of the comments were talking about how he was acting like he was better than everybody, or he had all the answers, or he need to shut up and listen, calling him a hoe, all types of shit. And I'm like, was that really necessary? Just because y'all disagree? But it was the same energy at the table, so I'm not really surprised, honestly. But the thing about it that has me kind of like passion flamed at this moment to even do this video about him is, first of all, the first thing I remember about NLE Chopper was that he was a Scorpio. All right. And when you deal with Scorpios, they are passionate people, and that's just their Mars, right? It's just their Mars. I'm about to look up his birth chart right now as I'm talking, but it's like he had the insight to sit his butt down for 90 days and only listen and only listen. Now, me personally, I don't think anybody at that table ever did anything like that, but they were all raised in a religious indoctrinated setting, whether they agree, still agree. But just like Kurt Franklin said, that's religious trauma that has a lot of people feeling something. And then he got okay, so he was Scorpio Sun, Venus, Mercury, Libra, Mars. So he is fair about how he handles stuff. And he has a Virgo moon. So I that's the energy I get, where it's like you can't even, while they was so sure that he was being combative and he's not listening, he just keep responding and being overly critical in his responses to them. Like they felt I felt like they thought they was being attacked. They felt like they were being attacked. But he has Chiron in Capricorn, which makes a lot of sense as to why Ray J was acting the way he was towards him. Ray J is a Capricorn. So I really felt like with his North Node also being in Gemini, where his Saturn is, yes, he does have a lot of time where, he'll be learning throughout his life. And I feel like he's open to that idea because he kept telling them, like, yes, like I'm receiving it. I'm open. I receive that. I receive that. Amen. Yes. Like he was giving affirmations to let the room know, or even just himself talking to himself know that he was present and he was ready and he was open. He has a North Node Gemini, which is an exalted position. So, and he has Jupiter Leo as well. So he's meant to be famous. He's meant to take up space. He's meant to allow his ego, because Leo is connected to ego, the sun, the self-awareness really. But that Jupiter Leo was shining, and his Jupiter Leo is making a direct trine aspect to his Pluto in Sagittarius. Okay, so this is a Gen Z, hard life coming up, very spiritual, because everything that the men sitting at the table had gone through, I feel like it's everything he's basically saying that his father went through, and his father broke that by allowing him to grow up without all that indoctrination. And he found his path to spirituality at a young age, where all these men sitting at the table still stuck in religion and that dogma. And Sagittarius does tap into philosophy and religion, those structures. You know what I'm saying? So Pluto Sagittarius generation a lot of them kind of have the ability to see through the programming, the facade, the BS, and the religious dogma that a lot of us, Gen Y or X, had to kind of suffer through or stumble through. They kind of like eliminated a lot of that confusion on their own if they chose to, because they didn't have to deal with that. They didn't have to deal with that. And then they're choosing to not have to deal with that because they're already coming here with that Pluto Sagittarius with some reasoning or enlightening ability as a generation to eliminate the ability to not expand your mind by expanding their minds of others through their actions. Fire sign, right? And him having Pluto and Jupiter in the fire trine as a Sun, Venus, and Mercury, Scorpio, Mars rule, Pluto rule. Yeah, he is very passionate, very passionate. And the fact that he was able to articulate so many different spiritual topics that a lot of people, especially even in the quote unquote Black community, really made them uncomfortable, which I felt like Jonathan Major telling him to go read the Bible again because of his perspective about Jesus and God. And it's like, if Jesus is the Son of God, then why are we exalting the Son more than the Father? And I felt like that wasn't disrespectful. It was a serious question that these men who grew up in this system, this indoctrination, should be asking themselves. And because somebody was able to articulate it in that way and give it to him, and he's younger than them, without having to go through the experiences they had to go through, which I think Ray J was trying to point out, like, they had experiences and stuff that he's never even been through. And I felt like it did have something to do with the whole indoctrination with the church, because he was the only one at the table was not growing up in church. So he don't have none of the trauma or the attachments to being a certain type of way of thinking or feeling about himself and others that everybody else had. It made him stand out. He is Uranus and Neptune Aquarius as well. Okay, and his Neptune is squaring his Sun and Venus conjunction. So it's very hard for somebody to be received in this type of a manner through major mad groups of people. And this Aquarian mad group of people were all people who grew up a way that he did not. So he was the one out of the group who was different than everybody else. And he wasn't afraid to communicate that either, because it was plainly obvious that his energy was way different from everybody else. But that wasn't a bad thing, you know what I'm saying? Because everybody had their own individual look, their own individual presence. Even the doctor, I felt like the doc and Kev was more open and receptive to the exchange between them two. And I feel like Jonathan and Ray J was on the same page of creating this friction with him simply because they didn't understand. They simply didn't understand. He went through everything at the table that everybody else had went through at a younger age. And to tell somebody like to keep on living, he don't have no choice but to keep on living. But to say that in a way to say you don't know anything, it's the same type of trauma that the Gen X and Y had gone through in their upbringing, when the younger generation are coming in to tell the older generations what's to come, what they should be looking for. Like, even if you want to go back to the whole Bible and the whole Jesus thing, Jesus was a babe speaking. He was a babe speaking. And he told them not to ignore the children. So either way, I found this to be extremely informative, and I hope everybody watches, especially people who are deep in the spiritual community or deep in their spirituality or their spiritual journey, because this is a perfect example of what all of us who've been going through this deal with in groups like this. So I'm happy that he did this. I'm happy that he put himself out there, and I hope and I send him a lot of gratitude for doing this. Shout out to NLE.